Sodom and Gomorrah, names that are synonymous with judgment, destruction, and divine wrath. But these cities were once more than just symbols of sin. They were thriving, powerful centers of trade and prosperity in the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley, near the southern end of what we now know as the Dead Sea. Genesis 13 verse 10 tells us, Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. This was no barren wasteland. It was a paradise, a lush land, flowing with abundance, seemingly untouched by the curses of sin. To the people who lived there, it appeared that they were blessed by the gods. Prosperity bloomed, as did the culture of wealth and indulgence. But appearances can be deceiving. Beneath the opulent surface lay a society rotting from the inside, a society that was increasingly turning away from righteousness and embracing rebellion. The rise of Sodom and Gomorrah was not just about wealth and commerce. It was about the deadly fusion of prosperity and moral decay. Their economy thrived, but their hearts withered. They indulged in every form of pleasure, but neglected the most basic principles of justice, compassion, and humility. Ezekiel 16 verse 49 outlines this. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister, Sodom, pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy. Their sin began with pride. They had everything, food, luxury, comfort, but instead of being grateful, they grew arrogant. The blessings of the land turned them inward. They were too comfortable, too idle, and too indulgent to notice the decay creeping through their hearts and their society. Their prosperity became a breeding ground for sin, and instead of becoming a light for the world, they became the very example of what happens when a society forsakes God. The fall of these cities did not happen overnight. Their destruction was a result of a long process of moral corruption. What began as small compromises turned into outright rebellion. Their acceptance of corruption grew as their culture became more materialistic and morally blind. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah reveled in sin, flaunting it openly. Their pride and greed had eclipsed their conscience. Jude 1 verse 7 gives us a clear picture of their moral state. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Sin wasn't a hidden act for them. It wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was celebrated. Isaiah 3 verse 9 says, The show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Imagine a society where there are no hidden places for sin, where even the youngest and the oldest live without shame, where every sin is normalized and no one cares about justice anymore. This was the spirit of Sodom. Their moral compass had failed, and the consequences of their prideful, indulgent lives were soon to be irreversible. What does it mean when a culture forsakes all that is good and holy? Sodom and Gomorrah did not just sin in private. They celebrated their sins. They flaunted their rebellion in the face of righteousness. The very idea of justice, compassion, and humility was foreign to them. Their leaders, their people, and their merchants reveled in their sinful lifestyle without a single ounce of remorse. Genesis 19 verses 4 to 5 describes the infamous incident when the men of Sodom, young and old, surrounded Lot's house demanding the visitors, who were angels, be sent out to them for perverse purposes. The mob mentality had taken root. Before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed a house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. This wasn't just a few rogue individuals. This was the entire society, from the elders to the children, united in their depravity. Their sin wasn't just practiced, it was demanded. It was militant. Sin had taken such a hold of them that they could not see the evil of their ways, and they sought to force others to join in their rebellion. Romans 1 verse 32 captures this very essence, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but pleasure in them that do them. The people of Sodom were not just committing wicked acts. They were living in open defiance of God, and when confronted with their sin, they mocked righteousness and justice. Lot, in his desperation, even offered his daughters to the crowd, a tragic sign of how deeply the corruption of Sodom had affected him. It's often said that judgment comes when we least expect it. The people of Sodom went about their daily lives, eating, drinking, trading, and indulging without any concern for coming storm. But when the fire of judgment fell, it was swift and complete. Their rejection of mercy, their hatred for righteousness, and their willful participation in sin had sealed their fate. The angels, having rescued Lot and his family, warned them to flee without looking back. Genesis 19 verse 17 says, "Escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed." Yet Lot's wife, caught in the grip of her former life, looked back, and in that moment, she turned into a pillar of salt. This tragic act serves as a stark reminder of how difficult it is to escape the grip of sin and the importance of obedience to God. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was not merely a firestorm from heaven. It was a deliberate act of divine judgment, a warning that has echoed through the generations. Genesis 19 verses 24 to 25 records, "Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone, and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of cities, and that which grew upon the ground." The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah stands as one of the most powerful warnings in history, but its relevance is not confined to ancient times. It is a symbol for all generations. In fact, Jesus himself referred to Sodom as an example of judgment to come. Matthew 11 verses 23 to 24 says, "And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted unto heaven, shalt be brought down to hell. For the mighty works which have been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I say unto you, that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for thee." Jesus pointed out that even Sodom, a city of extreme wickedness, would have been spared had it witnessed the works of Christ. The reason for Sodom's destruction was not just their sin, but their refusal to repent. Jesus' words remind us that judgment is not only about the severity of sin, but also about the refusal to turn from it. Sodom's story serves as a stark contrast to the merciful offer of salvation in Jesus Christ. Just as God delivered Lot and his family, he offers deliverance to all who call upon his name. 2 Peter 2 verse 9 declares, "The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished." Sodom's ashes still speak. They are a warning not only for societies, but for individuals. As we look at our world today, we must ask, are we like Sodom? Are we living in a society that celebrates sin, refuses to repent, and embraces destruction? The choice we face today is the same one the people of Sodom faced. Will we eat God's mercy or face his judgment? The legacy of Sodom is clear. Judgment is inevitable when sin reaches its full measure, but God's mercy is always available to those who seek it. Will you choose the path of life, or will you walk the path of Sodom?